Lee Nobby sat in the corner of the spaceship's main room, watching her teammates prepare for their mission. Her small hands moved quickly over the communication panel, checking signals and making sure all systems worked properly. She was 24 years old, but looked even younger next to her enhanced teammates. "Nobby, stay quiet when we meet the aliens," Park Do-yeon said without looking at her. He was the team leader, and his cybernetic arms gleamed under the ship's lights. The metal parts of his body made him 3 times stronger than a normal human. "Just handle the translation work. If they're real talking to us." Nobby nodded but said nothing. She had heard this many times before. Her teammates always told her to stay in the background. They thought she was weak because she had no special powers or machine parts in her body. She was just ... normal ... Kim Minji walked past, her eyes glowing with a soft blue light. She could read minds and move things without touching them. "Don't worry, Nobby," she said, but her voice sounded fake kind. "We'll protect you if things go wrong." Cho Woo-bin laughed from across the room. His mechanical arms were working on 3 different tools at once. "Yeah, just stay behind us. These aliens are supposed to be really dangerous. We don't want you getting hurt." Nobby kept working on her communication panel. She'd been part of this team for 2 years, but they still treated her like a child. They were humanity's best explorers, sent to make contact with new alien species. Each of them had been changed with special technology or given supernatural powers. Each of them except her. The ship's computer made a soft sound. "Approaching. Target zone," it announced. "Alien construct detected. Size, massive. Origin, unknown." Do-yeon stood up, his metal joints making small clicking sounds. "Everyone to your stations. This is what we trained for." Through the front window, Nobby saw something that made her breath catch. Huge structure floated in space, bigger than any human city. It was black and silver, with strange patterns that seemed to move when she looked at them. Parts of it disappeared and reappeared as if it was not completely real. "By the gods," Minji whispered, her mental powers reaching out to scan the structure. "I can't read it. There are minds inside, but they're different. Very different." Woo-bin's mechanical eyes zoomed in on the structure. "The technology is beyond anything we've seen. The energy readings are off the charts." Nobby quietly opened her own scans. While her teammates looked at the big picture, she studied the small details, the way the structure moved, patterns in its energy signals, the rhythm of its disappearing and reappearing sections. 3 different types of signals," she said softly. 3 different groups inside." "What did you say?" Do-yeon asked, turning to her. "There are 3 different species on that structure. Each one has a different communication pattern. One group uses pack-based signals like wolves. Another uses collective signals like a hive mind. The third uses individual signals, but they can phase in and out of normal space." Her teammates looked at her with surprise. They had been so focused on the structure's power that they missed the communication patterns completely. "Good catch," Do-yeon said, but his tone suggested he was not really impressed. "Still, let us handle the contact." "You just translate what?" "They say the ship moved closer to the alien structure." Her voice came through the communication system, speaking in 3 different languages at once. The translation computer could not handle it. Nobby's fingers flew over her panel. She separated the 3 signals and began working on translations. The first language was sharp and precise, like military commands. The second was overlapping voices, speaking as one. The third was strange, with words that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. "I've got basic translation ready," she announced. "They're inviting us inside, but there's something else. They're testing us. Each species is watching to see how we respond." "Testing us how?" Minji asked. "They want to see if we're hunters or prey," Nobby said quietly. "All 3 species are predators. They're judging us by predator standards." Do-yeon waved his hand dismissively. "Doesn't matter. We'll show them what enhanced humans can do. Everyone, prepare for docking." The ship connected to the alien structure with a soft thud. The airlock opened, and humanity's elite team stepped into the alien world. The inside of the structure was impossible. Gravity seemed to work differently and different. areas. The walls were made of something that looked like living metal. And waiting for them were 3 groups of the most terrifying beings Nabi had ever seen. The first group stood 8 feet tall, with reptilian skin that seemed to shift and change color. Their eyes were like a snake's, but filled with intelligence. These were the Vorthok. They moved with perfect silence, and Nabi realized they could make themselves invisible. The second group looked like giant insects, but they moved with perfect coordination. Every member of the group moved at exactly the same time, as if controlled by one mind. These were the Grim. Their skin looked like black armor. Acid dripped from their claws. The third group was the strangest. They looked almost human, but their bodies seemed to be made of energy instead of flesh. They kept fading in and out of sight, existing in multiple dimensions at once. These were the Nethys. "Welcome, humans," the Vorthok leader said, in a voice like grinding stone. "I am Kethver. We have been waiting to meet your species." Doyen stepped forward, his cybernetic arms gleaming. "I am Park Doyen, leader of humanity's first contact team. We come in peace, seeking friendship between our species." The 3 alien groups looked at each other, then they looked at Dojon. Something passed between them that Nabi could not quite understand. "You speak of peace," the Grim Collective said in their overlapping voices. "But we smell metal and circuits in your blood. You are not natural." "We have enhanced ourselves to become stronger," Mingy said, her eyes glowing as she showed off her mental powers. "We can do things normal humans cannot." The Nethys leader phased partially out of existence. "Strength borrowed from machines is not true strength? Where is your natural power?" Nabi watched from the back of the group as her teammates tried to impress the aliens. Doyan lifted a heavy piece of metal to show his cybernetic strength. Minji moved objects with her mind. Wubin displayed his mechanical tools, but the aliens were not impressed. If anything, they seemed disappointed. "These are not hunters," Kethver said to his companions. "They are scavengers who have decorated themselves with stolen power." "Have forgotten what it means to be predators," the Grim Collective agreed. "They interest us little," the Nethys leader said, beginning to fade away. Nabi stepped forward before she could stop herself. "Wait," she said softly. All eyes turned to her teammates looked embarrassed that she had spoken. The aliens looked curious. "You are right," Nabi said, her voice steady, despite her fear. "We are not natural predators, but we are something else. We are survivors. We adapt. We learn. Find ways to win, even when we are weaker than our enemies." The aliens paused. The first time they looked truly interested. "Prove it," Kethver said, his reptilian eyes fixed on her, and in that moment, Nabi knew that everything was about to change. The next day, Nabi found herself alone in the observation room of the alien structure. Her teammates were in the main hall, still trying to impress the 3 alien species with their enhanced abilities. She could hear Doyun's voice echoing through the corridors as he demonstrated his cybernetic strength, but Nabi was not watching her teammates. She was watching the aliens. The Vorthok moved like hunters who had all the time in the world. They never hurried. When they spoke, they chose their words carefully. When they moved, every step had a purpose. Nabi noticed that they always positioned themselves where they could see all exits from a room. "They think before they act," she whispered to herself, making notes on her small tablet. "They plan everything." The Grim were different. They moved like a single organism with many bodies. When one of them learned something, they all knew it instantly. They wasted no energy on unnecessary actions, so everything they did was efficient and purposeful. "They worked together perfectly," Nabi wrote. "No individual ego. Only the good of the group matters." The Nethys were the most interesting. They existed in multiple dimensions at once, but Nabi noticed they became more solid when they faced a problem. They seemed to test reality by phasing in and out of existence. They adapt to whatever situation they face, she noted. They change themselves to match what they need to be. For 3 days, Nabi watched and learned while her teammates grew more frustrated. The aliens were polite but clearly not impressed by cybernetic strength, mental powers, or mechanical tools. They don't respect artificial enhancement, Nabi realized. They only respect natural ability. On the 4th day, Kethver approached the human group. The large Vorthax scales shifted color from dark green to deep blue. Nabi had learned this meant he was about to issue a challenge. "We have watched you for 4 days," he said in his grinding voice. "We have seen your borrowed powers. Now we will test your true abilities." The Grim Collective moved forward as one. "You will face the trial of the hunters," they said in their overlapping voices. 3 challenges, 3 tests. Prove you are worthy of our alliance. The Nethi's leader phased into full existence. The first test begins now. You will navigate the maze of changing paths. Each of you will enter alone.
How?
Only those who understand the nature of the hunt will succeed. Doyan stepped forward immediately. "I'll go first. My enhanced reflexes and strength will get me through any maze." The aliens led the group to a huge chamber. In the center stood a maze that seemed to be made of living shadow. The walls moved constantly, changing the paths every few seconds. "The maze has 3 sections," Kethfer explained. "The way of the patient hunter, the path of the collective, and the road of the adaptive. Each section requires different skills." Doyon entered the maze with confidence. His cybernetic arms glowed in the dark as he pushed through the shifting walls. Nabi and the others watched on screens that showed his progress. In the first section, Dojan tried to use his enhanced speed to run through the changing paths, but the maze seemed to predict his movements. Every time he chose a direction, the walls shifted to block him. After an hour of fighting the maze, he was trapped in a corner with no way out. "Patience," Kethfer said quietly. "The first section rewards those who wait and observe before acting." Mingi went next. Her mental powers allowed her to sense the maze's structure, but in the second section, her individual thinking worked against her. The walls required multiple people to move them, but she was alone. Her powers could not solve a puzzle designed for group cooperation. "Unity," the Grim Collective said. "The second section requires thinking as one mind, not many." Wubin entered. With his mechanical tools ready, he did well in the first 2 sections by being patient and using his tools to simulate group work. But in the third section, his tools became useless. The walls existed in multiple dimensions, and his 3-dimensional tools could not affect them. "Adaptation," the Nethi's leader said. "The third section requires changing yourself to match the challenge." All 3 enhanced humans had failed. They stood outside the maze looking defeated and confused. "The maze is impossible," Doyan said angrily. "It's designed to make us fail." "No," Nabi said quietly. "It's designed to test natural hunter instincts. You're all trying to use your enhancements instead of your basic human abilities." Her teammates looked at her with surprise. Mingi crossed her arms. "Fine. If you think you understand it so well, you try." Nabi looked at the maze entrance. Her heart was beating fast, but she had been watching and learning for 4 days. She thought she understood what the aliens wanted to see.
"Okay,"
she said. "I'll try." She entered the maze without any special equipment or powers, just her normal human senses in her brain. In the first section, the way of the patient hunter, she stopped and watched. The walls moved in patterns. After 10 minutes of observation, she saw the rhythm. The maze was not random. It was like a breathing creature with a heartbeat. She waited for the right moment and moved with the maze's natural flow, not against it. She passed through the first section in 15 minutes. In the second section, the path of the collective, she could not rely on group thinking because she was alone. But she remembered watching the Grim. They succeeded because they thought about the good of the group, not individual glory. So Nabi stopped trying to find the best path for herself and started looking for the path that would be best for everyone. She imagined her teammates with her. What would help all of them? What would serve the group's needs? When she started thinking this way, the walls began to cooperate with her instead of fighting her. She passed through the second section in 20 minutes. The third section was the hardest. The walls existed in multiple dimensions, and her normal human senses could not see them all. But she remembered watching the Nethys. They did not try to exist in all dimensions at once. They adapted to each situation by becoming what they needed to be. Nabi closed her eyes and stopped trying to see the walls. Instead, she felt for them. She adapted her thinking to match the maze's strange reality. When she needed to be solid, she focused on being solid. When she needed to be flexible, she let her mind become flexible. She passed through the third section in 30 minutes. When she emerged from the maze, the chamber was completely silent. Her teammates stared at her with open mouths. The 3 alien species were watching her with new interest. "Impossible," Doyan whispered. "How did you do it?" "I watched," Nabi said simply. "I learned. I adapted." Kethfer stepped forward, his scales shifting to bright gold. "The small one understands. She hunts with her mind, not her tools." The grim collective moved closer. "She thinks of the group, not herself. She has the wisdom of the hive." The Nethi's leader became fully solid for the first time since they had met. She adapts without losing herself. She is what she needs to be. Minji looked angry. She got lucky. The maze was easier for her because she went last. But the aliens were not listening to Minji anymore. They were all looking at Nabi with something that looked like respect. 2 more trials remain, Kethfer said. But already we see which human truly understands the hunt. Nabi felt a strange new feeling growing inside her. For the first time in her life, she was not the weakest person in the room. She was something else entirely. She was becoming a hunter. The morning of the second trial, Kethfer led the humans to a new chamber. This room was different from the others. The walls showed images of a wild planet with red skies and purple trees. Strange animals moved through thick forests and across wide plains. "This is Kareth Prime," the Vorthok leader explained. "A world where only the strongest survive. Your second trial will take place there." The grim collective moved forward. 7 days, 7 nights. You will survive with only basic tools. No enhancements. No artificial aids. No special powers. The Nethi's leader phased into view. "The planet will test your natural abilities. We'll observe how you work together, how you adapt." Doyan looked worried. "No enhancements? But my cybernetic arms are part of me now." "They will be temporarily disabled," Kethfer said. "All artificial improvements will be shut down. You will face this trial as nature made you." Minji's eyes stopped glowing. "My mental powers come from implants. Without them, I'm just ... human," Nabi finished quietly. "You'll be just human." 2 hours later, the team stood on the surface of Kareth Prime. The air was thick and humid. Strange sounds came from the purple forests. In the distance, something large howled. Doyan tried to lift a fallen tree branch, but his cybernetic arms would not respond. His enhanced strength was gone. "This is impossible. How are we supposed to survive without our abilities?" Ubin was having the same problem. His mechanical tools were dead weight on his back. "I don't know how to do anything without my equipment." Mingi sat on a rock, holding her head. "I can't read thoughts. I can't move things with my mind. I feel so ... empty." Nabi looked around at the alien landscape. Yes, it was dangerous. But she had grown up on a farm before joining the space program. She knew how to work with her hands. She knew how to read nature's signs. "We need shelter first," she said. "Then water, then food. The howling sounds are coming from the north, so we should go south." "Why should we listen to you?" Minji asked angrily. "You're not the team leader?" "Because," Nabi said calmly, "I'm the only one who knows how to survive without machines." She started walking south. After a moment, her teammates followed. He had no choice. The first day was hard. Doyan kept trying to use his disabled cybernetic arms and getting frustrated. Minji jumped at every sound, unable to use her mental powers to sense danger. Wubin complained constantly about his useless tools. But Nabi stayed calm. She found a cave that would make a good shelter. She showed them how to make a fire without electric tools. She identified which plants were safe to eat and which ones were poisonous. "How do you know all this?" Wubin asked, as they ate bitter purple berries that Nabi had found. "I grew up on a farm," Nabi said. "Before I joined the space program, I lived with nature every day. I learned to read the land, the plants, the animals." The aliens watched them from a distance. Nabi could see the Vorthak shapes moving through. The trees, perfectly camouflaged. The Grimm Collective worked as one to observe from multiple angles. The Nethys phased in and out of existence as they studied the humans. On the second day, Nabi noticed something important. The aliens were not just watching, they were learning. They were seeing how humans behaved when stripped of their artificial advantages. They're judging us, she told her teammates that evening. It's not just whether we can survive, but how we work together. What do you mean? Doyen asked. Look at how they behave, Nabi said. The Vorthok work together, but each one is still independent. The Grimm think as one mind. The Nethys adapt to whatever they need to be. They want to see which human behavior they can work with. On the third day, they faced their first real test. A pack of six-legged creatures with razor-sharp claws found their camp. The animals were as big as wolves, but moved like cats. Their eyes glowed yellow in the morning light. Doyan tried to fight them with his fists. But without his cybernetic strength, he was no match for the creatures. Mingi screamed and ran. Ubin tried to use his dead tools as weapons, but Nabi did something different. She stood very still and watched the creatures. She noticed their body language, their posture, their packed behavior. They're not hunting us, she said quietly. They're protecting something. We're too close to their nest. Instead of fighting, she slowly backed away from the area the creatures were guarding. She gestured for her teammates to follow her. The creatures watched them go, but did not attack. As soon as the humans were far enough from the nest, the animals disappeared back into the forest. How did you know? Doyen asked, breathing heavily. I watched them, Nabi said. Animals have a language. You just have to learn how to read it. From the trees, she heard a soft sound. It was Kethfer, and he was making a noise that sounded almost like approval by the fourth day. Something had changed in the group. Her teammates stopped looking to Doyan for leadership. They started asking Nabi what to do. Which way should we go for water? Minji asked. What should we do about the storm clouds? Wubin wondered. How can we make better shelter? Doyan questioned. Nabi answered each question calmly and practically. She led them to a stream by following the flight. Patterns of birds. She showed them how to waterproof their shelter using tree sap and large leaves. She taught them to predict weather by watching cloud formations. The aliens began to follow her lead too. When she chose a path through the forest, the Vorthok scouts appeared along that same route. When she decided to avoid a dangerous area, the Grimm Collective shifted their observation pattern to match her choice. When she adapted their shelter design, the Nethys became more solid, as if they were paying closer attention. On the fifth day, something unexpected happened. The three alien species began to work together in a way they had never done before. They were coordinating their actions around Nabi's decisions. Look, Wubin whispered, pointing to a nearby hill. The Vorthok are positioned where Nabi said the danger would come from. The Grimm are working together to clear the path she chose. The Nethys are scouting the areas she wants to avoid.
Abi Rails
realized what was happening. The aliens were not just watching her lead humans. They were letting her lead them too. Sixth day, she tested this theory. She made a decision to move the camp to higher ground because she sensed a storm coming. Without being asked, the Vorthok helped clear the path. The Grimm Collective worked together to move supplies. The Nethys used their phasing abilities to scout the new location. Even her teammates noticed the change. They're following your orders, Minji said with amazement. The most powerful species in the galaxy are following you. Not my orders, Nabi corrected. My suggestions. There's a difference. Doyen looked at her with new respect. You're not giving commands. You're showing them the best path, and they're choosing to follow it. That's what real leadership is, Nabi said. It's not forcing people to obey, but helping them want to succeed. That night, as they sat around the fire, Kethfer emerged from the shadows. His scales were bright gold now. The color Nabi had learned meant deep respect. Small human, he said in his grinding voice. You lead without commanding. You unite without conquering. You adapt without losing yourself. The Grimm Collective spoke as one. You think for the group while remaining individual. You are what we have been looking for. The Nethys leader became fully solid. Tomorrow brings the final test. But already, we have learned much about human nature. About your nature. Nabi looked at her teammates, then at the alien leaders. What is the final test? Kethfer scales. Shifted to deep blue. Survival, but not against the planet. Against something much more dangerous. Something that will test every skill you have learned. In the distance, a new sound echoed across the alien landscape. It was not the howl of a native creature. It was something else entirely. Something that made even the powerful alien predators look worried. What is that? Doyen asked. Your real test. Kethfer said grimly. Tomorrow, you will face the Shadow Beast, a creature that has killed members of all our species.
Ow!
Only a true leader can survive its challenge. Nabi felt her heart racing, but she kept her voice steady. Then we'll face it together. The aliens looked at each other, then at her. In their eyes, she saw something that had never been there before when they looked at humans. Hope. Dawn came slowly on Kareth Prime. The red sky turned orange, then yellow. But the strange howling sound they had heard the night before was getting closer. Nabi woke first. She had learned to sleep lightly during their 6 days on the planet. Something was wrong. The normal forest sounds had stopped. Even the insects were quiet. Everyone wake up, she said softly. We have company. Her teammates stirred in their makeshift shelter. Doyen sat up, still trying to activate his cybernetic arms out of habit. Minji rubbed her eyes, missing the mental powers that used to tell her about danger. Ubin grabbed his useless tools, but the aliens were already alert. Kethfer and his Vorthok hunters had formed a defensive circle around the camp. The grim collective moved as one, their black armor gleaming in the morning light. The Nethys flickered in and out of existence, trying to phase away from whatever was coming. What's happening? Doyen asked. The Shadow Beast, Kethfer said grimly. It has found us. Through the purple trees came a sound like breaking glass mixed with screaming wind. Then Nabi saw it, and her blood turned cold. The Shadow Beast was huge, bigger than any creature they had seen on the planet. It looked like a nightmare made real. Its body was black as space, but it seemed to absorb light instead of reflecting it. Where it walked, the plants died and the ground cracked. Its eyes were white fire, and when it looked at something, that thing began to fade away. It feeds on artificial energy, the Nethys leader said, phasing rapidly in and out of existence. Enhanced beings are like beacons to it. It hunts them first. The beast turned its burning eyes toward Doyen. Even with his cybernetics disabled, there was still metal in his body. The creature could sense it. Run, Doyen shouted, but his legs would not move. The beast's gaze was paralyzing him. Minji tried to help, but she could not use her mental powers. Wubin swung his dead tools at the creature, but they passed right through its shadow body. The alien species prepared to fight. The Vorthok activated their natural camouflage and spread out for an attack. The Grim Collective moved in perfect formation, acid dripping from their claws. The Nethys tried to phase into a dimension where they could hurt the beast, but Nabi saw something they all missed. The Shadow Beast was not just hunting enhanced beings, it was responding to fear. The more afraid its targets became, the stronger it got. Stop, she called out. Everyone stop fighting. Are you crazy? Minji screamed. That thing will kill us all. Look at it, Nabi said, stepping between the beast and her teammates. Really? Look at it. The Shadow Beast paused. Its white eyes fixed on Nabi, but she did not run. She did not attack. She studied it the same way she had studied everything else on this planet. You're not a monster, she said to the creature. You're a guardian. The beast tilted its massive head. For a moment, the burning in its eyes seemed less intense. This planet has been used as a testing ground for a long time, Nabi continued, speaking to the creature as if it could understand. You've seen enhanced beings come here before? Beings who thought their artificial power made them better than nature? You're protecting this place from those who would harm it. The Shadow Beast stepped closer. Nabi's teammates gasped, but she held her ground. We're not here to conquer, she said. We're here to learn, to prove we can work with nature instead of against it. The creature stopped just a few feet away from her. This close, Nabi could see that its shadow body was not solid. It was made of pure energy, but natural energy. The same energy that flowed through all living things. You're testing us, she realized. This whole trial, you're not here to kill. Us. You're here to see if we understand what it means to be truly alive. The beast's eyes dimmed slightly. It was listening. Nabi turned to her teammates and the alien species. Put away your weapons. Stop being afraid. This creature feeds on artificial enhancement and fear. But I'm not enhanced and I'm not afraid. Not afraid? Ubin whispered. That thing could destroy us all, could it? Nabi asked. Or could it teach us something? She turned back to the shadow beast. You want to see leadership, don't you? Not the kind that comes from machines or special powers. Kind that comes from understanding. The creature moved closer. Now it was close enough to touch her. Nabi could feel the energy radiating from its body. It was warm like sunlight. Understand, she said softly. You're not testing our strength, you're testing our wisdom. The shadow beast's eyes stopped burning. Instead, they began to glow with a soft, gentle light. Then something amazing happened. The creature began to change. Its shadow body became less dark. The dead plants around its feet started to grow again. The cracks in the ground healed. Impossible, Kethro breathed. The shadow beast has never done this before, 'cause no. One ever tried to understand it before? Nabi said. Everyone who came here tried to fight it or run from it, and no one tried to communicate with it. The beast lowered its massive head until it was level with Nabi's face. She reached out slowly and placed her hand on what would have been its nose. The energy felt warm and alive, like touching a star. Images flashed through her mind. She saw the beast's memories. Hundreds of enhanced beings had come to this planet over the years. Warriors with cybernetic implants, psionics with mental powers, scientists with advanced tools. All of them had tried to dominate the planet instead of learning from it. The shadow. Beasts had been created by the planet itself to test visitors, to see if any species could understand that true strength came from harmony with nature, not dominance over it. You've been waiting, Nabi whispered, waiting for someone who could pass the real test. The creature nodded its massive head. Then, it began to fade away, but not in the frightening way it had appeared. This time it faded like morning mist, peacefully and naturally. As it disappeared, it left something behind. A small crystal that glowed with the same gentle light that had been in its eyes. Nabi picked up the crystal. The moment she touched it, she understood. This was not just a prize for passing the test. It was a symbol, sign that she had been chosen. Kethfer stepped forward, his scales now pure gold.
Pack leader, he said.
And his voice held deep respect. You have done what no enhanced being could do. You faced the ultimate predator with wisdom instead of weapons. The Grim Collective moved as one to surround her. Prime Coordinator, they said in their overlapping voices. You led us to victory without commanding us to fight. You united different species through understanding. The Nethi's leader became more solid than Nabi had ever seen him. The adapter, he said. You changed not yourself, but the situation. You turned a test of strength into a test of wisdom. Your teammates looked at her with new eyes. Doyen bowed his head. I was wrong, Nabi. You're not the weakest member of our team. You're the strongest. Minji nodded. Your strength doesn't come from machines or powers. It comes from here. She pointed to her heart. And here, she pointed to her head. Wubin put down his useless tools. I want to learn what you know. How to work with nature instead of trying to control it. Nabi looked at the crystal in her hand, then at the faces around her. Humans and aliens, all looking at her with respect and hope. This was never about passing. A test, she said quietly. This was about showing that different species can work together. That leadership isn't about being the strongest or the smartest. It's about understanding what others need and helping them find their way. Kethver's scales flashed with bright colors. The trials are complete, Pack Leader. You've proven yourself worthy of our highest honor. What honor? Nabi asked. The three alien leaders looked at each other, then back at her. The right to lead us all, the Grim Collective said. In the greatest challenge our galaxy has ever faced, the Nethi's leader added. Against an enemy that threatens every living world, Kethver finished. Nabi felt the weight of their words. She was no longer just a communications specialist on a first contact mission. She had become something much more important. She had become their chosen commander. 1 week later, Nabi stood in a room she had never seen before. The walls were made of crystal that showed stars and galaxies. In the center of the room was a table shaped like a star, with seats for dozens of different species. "This is the chamber of the Galactic Predator Council," Kethver explained. His scales showed deep respect as he spoke. "For 1,000 years, the greatest hunters in the galaxy have met here. Today, they will meet their new Supreme Commander." Nabi's heart was beating fast. Since leaving Kareth Prime, everything had moved quickly.
Not too quickly.
Her teammates had been taken back to human space with honor and new understanding. But she had been brought to the secret station, hidden between dimensions. "I still don't understand," she said. "Why me? I'm just a communications specialist from Earth." The Nethi's leader phased into the room. "That is exactly why it must be you. Tell her, Kethver. Tell her about the Devourers." Kethver's scales turned dark blue, the color of deep worry. 300 years ago, beings from outside our galaxy arrived. We call them the Devourers. They consume everything: planets, stars, entire solar systems. They turn living worlds into empty space. "We tried to fight them," the Grim Collective said, their voices overlapping with sadness. "Every species in the galaxy joined together. Millions of ships, billions of warriors. We had weapons that could destroy stars. And we lost," the Nethi's leader finished. "Badly. The Devourers were not just strong, they were smart. They turned our own power against us. Enhanced beings, artificial intelligence, advanced weapons. Everything we thought made us powerful became a weakness." Nabi felt cold. "How many survived?" "Barely half our population," Kethver said. "The Devourers consumed 3 spiral arms of the galaxy before we found a way to hide from them, but they will return. Our scouts have detected them moving toward us again. That's why we created the trials," the Grim Collective explained. "For 300 years, we have been searching for someone who could lead us. Someone who does not depend on artificial enhancement. Someone who leads through understanding, not force." The Nethi's leader became fully solid. "Enhanced beings. Think in patterns the Devourers can predict. But natural beings, especially humans, think in ways that cannot be predicted. Your species' greatest strength is also its greatest protection." "What strength?" Nabi asked. "Chaos," Kethver said, and for the first time, he sounded almost amused. "Humans are beautifully unpredictable. You adapt in ways that even we cannot understand. You find solutions that should be impossible." A new voice spoke from the chamber entrance. "Which is why you will lead us all." Nabi turned to see creatures she had never encountered before. Beings made of living metal, others that looked like walking trees, some that seemed to be made of pure thought. Dozens of different species, all powerful, all predators in their own way. "The Council has been watching your trials," said a being that looked like a giant cat made of starlight. "We have been waiting for someone who could unite us without conquering us. Someone who could coordinate apex predators without trying to tame them," added a creature that seemed to be made of living fire. "Someone who understands that true strength comes from harmony, not dominance," finished a being that looked like a walking crystal formation. Nabi looked around the room at dozens of powerful alien species, all watching her with hope and respect. "But I don't know anything about military strategy. I'm not a warrior." "Neither was the Shadow Beast," Kethver pointed out. "But you defeated it through understanding, not violence. That is the kind of leadership we need." The Starlight Cat stepped forward. "The Devourers expect us to fight them the same way we did before, with massive fleets, with enhanced warriors, with artificial intelligence. They are prepared for that kind of war. But they are not prepared for natural intelligence," the fire being said. "They cannot predict chaos. They cannot understand harmony." The crystal creature moved closer to Nabi. "You have already proven you can lead predator species.
Now we ask.
You too lead us all against the Devourers?" Nabi asked. "Against extinction," Kethver said simply. Nabi thought about everything that had happened. A week ago, she had been the weakest member of a first contact team. Her teammates had treated her like dead weight. She had felt useless and forgotten. But now she understood something important. She had never been weak. She had just been different. Her teammates had enhanced themselves to become stronger than normal humans. But in doing so, they had lost something essentially human. The ability to adapt, to think in new ways, to find unexpected solutions. If I accept this, she said slowly, what would I actually do? The Grim Collective spoke as one. You would coordinate the greatest alliance in galactic history, every predator species, every hunter race, all following your strategic guidance. You would not command us like slaves, the Nethes leader explained. You would guide us like a pack leader guides hunters, by showing us the best path forward. It's the way you did on Kareth Prime, Kethver added. The way you did with the Shadow Beast, through understanding and wisdom. Nabi closed her eyes and thought. When she opened them again, her voice was steady and sure. I accept. The chamber erupted in sounds of approval. Roars, clicks, harmonics, and dozens of other expressions of joy from dozens of different species. The starlight cat approached her with something in its claws. It was a crystal similar to the one the Shadow Beast had given her, but larger and more complex. It seemed to contain the light of entire star systems. The command crystal, the cat explained. It will let you communicate with every predator species in the galaxy instantly. Your thoughts, your strategies, your guidance, all shared across light years in an instant. Nabi took the crystal. The moment she touched it, her mind expanded. She could sense thousands of different species across the galaxy. Hunters on distant worlds, predators hiding in asteroid belts, apex species she had never imagined, and they could all sense her. Pack leader came thoughts from the Vorthok across. The Galaxy Prime Coordinator whispered the minds of the Grim Collective. The Adapter phased the consciousness of the Net, HYS Supreme Commander, came the unified thought of every predator species in the galaxy. The Devourers will arrive in 6 months, Kethver said. 6 months to prepare the greatest defense in galactic history. 6 months to prove that natural intelligence can defeat artificial power, the Grim Collective added. 6 months to save everything we know and love, the Nethes leader finished. Nabi stood in the center of the chamber, holding the command crystal, surrounded by the most powerful beings in the galaxy. She thought about her journey from overlooked communications specialist to supreme commander of all predator species. She thought about her teammates, who had learned that artificial enhancement was not the same as real strength. She thought about the Shadow Beast, who had taught her that wisdom was more powerful than weapons. She thought about the future and the impossible challenge that lay ahead. Then let's get to work, she said. The galaxy's greatest hunters roared their approval. For the first time in 300 years, they had real hope. And it all started with a young woman who had been told she was the weakest member of her team. The woman who had proven that sometimes being underestimated was the greatest advantage. Of all, Supreme Commander Lee Nabi, leader of the Galactic Predator Defense Force, was ready to show the Devourers what humanity could really do. The hunt was about to begin.